You might remember seeing a picture I put up online not long back. A little electric car, a Renault Zoe, looking a bit sorry for itself on a recovery truck.
Ah, yes, I saw that.
And if you saw it, you were probably thinking, okay, what's the story there? Well, today we're going deep. We're tackling a really direct question. Knowing everything now, would I buy another high-mileage Renault Zoe?
And the answer is,
It's a hard no, a definite no, and stick with us because we're going to unpack exactly why.
and that's really our mission today in this deep dive, isn't it? We want to pull out the key bits of information, the really crucial stuff about Renault Zoe reliability, especially those older, higher mileage ones,
Yeah.
and figure out what that actually means for you if you're maybe looking at buying one of these early, quite popular EVs on the secondhand market. We need to go beyond just the one story.
Absolutely. I mean, the Zoe, it was one of the first EVs lots of people saw regularly, wasn't it? It felt like a proper, usable electric car right from the start. For me, and I think for many others, it was that first real taste of driving electric day to day. Quite groundbreaking at the time.
Exactly, and that's why we need to look closely. We're going to weigh up the good and the bad using the real-world experiences and the technical details from the sources we've got.
Right.
The aim is to give you a clear, honest picture of what you can genuinely expect as these pioneering EVs get older. It's about understanding the reality of, long-term EV ownership.
Okay, so let's get into it. We have to rewind to that moment, the day this particular Zoe decided, well, enough was enough. After being pretty reliable for its age, it just completely let me down. It was just driving along normal speeds and boom, total loss of power. Felt like it just dropped into neutral, completely dead.
Oh, well.
Nothing. Well, weirdly, I tried a jump pack, just on the off chance, and it actually sprang back to life. But only for about maybe 200 meters, just enough to give me this tiny sliver of hope before it died again.
The worst kind of hope.
Exactly. So there I was, side of the road, waiting for the AA to winch it onto the truck and take it off to my usual garage.
And this wasn't a low-mileage car failing, was it?
Right.
What was the mileage when this happened?
It was at 114,000 miles.
Okay, 114,000, which, that's a decent innings for any car, electric or otherwise. But it's definitely the sort of mileage where underlying weaknesses, if they exist, start to show themselves.
For sure. And look, thanks to some proper digging by the garage, we now know precisely what went wrong. And interestingly, it wasn't the battery. It wasn't the onboard charger or the general electronics.
Well, so what was it?
It was the main event, the motor and the reduction gearbox unit itself. The whole thing just failed.
Okay, so the drivetrain. And do we know why it failed? What was the specific point of failure?
Yes, and this is the crucial bit.
Right. It turns out the original bearing, the one right off the top of the motor, that was the root cause.
Yeah.
It had become really badly scored, just ground itself down.
Okay, a bearing failure. Seems simple enough.
Well, yes and no, because that initial failure set off a kind of chain reaction inside the unit, the actual motor shaft spindle, the bit that spins inside the bearing. Because the bearing failed, the shaft started to wear unevenly and actually got bigger in places, deformed.
Bigger? How does that happen?
Just through the uneven forces and friction, it effectively mushroomed slightly. And this meant there was suddenly a huge amount of play, unwanted movement in the bottom bearing of the motor too.
Ah, I see. So one failed bearing caused problems elsewhere. It wasn't isolated.
Exactly, a cascade failure. And the really critical consequence of all that extra movement, all that wobble, was that the copper windings inside the motor, they started physically hitting the motor casing.
Right.
They're rubbing against it. You can actually see the marks. And because they were rubbing, it caused the motor to short out. Game over.
So the motor essentially dropped slightly because the bearings wore out.
Pretty much. Just enough for those windings to make contact where they absolutely shouldn't. It really shows how precise these electric motors are, A tiny bit of wear in a seemingly small part like a bearing can lead to complete failure.
Right. And this is where it gets really frustrating from a repair perspective. My garage, they did the obvious thing. Tried to order a new top bearing.
Makes sense. Standard procedure.
Except Renault will not sell you the bearing.
Just the bearing on its own.
Nope. It's not available as a separate part from them. Can you believe that? So the garage had to go on this sort of global hunt. They eventually found and ordered a replacement bearing from the United States.
From the U.S. for a Renault part.
Yeah. Surprisingly, it actually turned up quite quickly.
But the fact they had to go to such lengths. Look, this bearing, especially after 114,000 miles, handling all the torque from an electric motor, it should be a serviceable part. It absolutely should.
You'd think so, like a wheel bearing or something.
Exactly. It should be something you can replace as part of maintenance, or when it fails. But Renault's approach, their policy seems to be, nope, you have to replace the entire motor unit.
Which costs? How much?
We're talking, what, 7,000 or 8,000 pounds, potentially, just for the unit before labor?
Yeah.
Compared to, I don't know, maybe 50 or 100 quid for the bearing itself. It's madness.
It's completely disproportionate. And it wasn't even straightforward after getting the U.S. bearing. Remember how the shaft had worn?
Ah, yes, the deformation.
So the garage had to take the shaft to a local engineering place. They machined it smooth again, put a custom collar on it, and then fitted the new top bearing. Proper job.
Sounds like a lot of skilled work.
It was. But here's the real gut punch. Even with all that effort, the new top bearing fitted perfectly. The wear in the other bearing, the bottom one.
Still causing problems.
Yeah. It meant the motor was still shorting out on the windings. So all that work, all that ingenuity, basically for nothing. We were back to square one. $7,000 for a motor because a bearing failed. It's like like demolishing your house because a light bulb blows.
It really throws that whole green image into question, doesn't it? If things aren't designed to be repaired, just replaced wholesale.
Exactly.
And this connects to something bigger. This isn't just a Zoe problem, though it's a really clear example. It feels like part of a wider trend in the industry, doesn't it? Both combustion engines and EVs.
You mean designing things that are hard to fix?
Precisely. Where maybe the priority is selling new units, new cars, rather than ensuring components can be repaired affordably for the long haul. It makes you question if new always means better or more sustainable.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of like the issues with the Ford EcoBoost wet belts. Or some of those Peugeot Citroën engines, where a design choice leads to huge repair bills down the line because a small part isn't easily serviceable.
Yeah. Exactly that kind of thing. The Ford EcoBoom, as some call it. This Zoe motor issue where simple bearing isn't sold separately. It feels like the same sort of thinking. It shifts the cost and the headache entirely onto the owner.
So it's not just a faulty part, it's almost a design philosophy issue.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And for you listening, the key takeaway here is, when you're looking at any car, especially with newer tech like EVs, don't just ask, does it work now? Ask, how is it fixed when something does go wrong?
Yeah.
Is component repair even possible? Or are you locked into replacing massive, expensive assemblies? Asking that question up front, as we've seen here, could save you a fortune later on. It forces us to think about the total cost of ownership, not just the sticker price or the fuel savings.
So after all that drama with the bearings and the machining, what actually happened? How did we get the Zoe running again?
Right, the solution.
Well, huge credit to my garage again. They kept searching and eventually managed to source a complete, used Z50 motor and reduction gearbox unit.
Ah, a second-hand unit.
Yeah. This one came out of a much newer 22-plate Zoe that had only done 22,000 miles. So low mileage, relatively speaking.
Makes sense.
They just swapped the whole unit over, fitted the replacement assembly, changed the oil in the reduction gearbox while they were at it. And honestly, the result's been brilliant.
Good news, finally. And that really shows sometimes sourcing a good used assembly is the only practical way forward when the manufacturer won't support component repair.
Yeah.
Good independent garages are lifesavers.
Totally. The car is now whisper quiet, silky smooth. The garage reckons it should easily do another 80, 90, maybe even 100,000 miles.
Wow.
And my mom is actually using it now mainly for short local trips, probably doing only about 2,500 miles a year.
Yeah.
So for that kind of use, it's absolutely spot on. She loved it.
That's good.
And it proves a point, doesn't it? The rest of the car, the battery seems fine, the electronics are good, the onboard charger works perfectly. It was purely that Z50 motor design that couldn't handle the higher mileage because of that bearing issue.
Right.
So the warning really stands. If you are looking at an older electric car, especially a Renault Zoe with the Z50 motor and high miles, you have to factor in this potential motor failure. Be aware of it.
Definitely. But it's not all doom and gloom with Zoe reliability, is it? Let's broaden out a bit. There are other known weak spots, but thankfully, they're usually much less serious.
Okay, good. Like what?
Well, the front suspension is one area owners often mention. Specifically, the drop links.
Ah, yes, I've heard about knocking noises from the front.
Exactly. The drop links connect the anti-roll bar to the suspension struts. And on the Zoe, they seem a bit, well, undersized or maybe made of materials that just don't quite cope with the forces over time.
So they wear out quickly.
Yeah, faster than you might expect, leading to that knocking or sometimes squeaking sound, especially over bumps.
Is that a big fix?
No, thankfully.
Yeah.
That's the good news here. Drop links are pretty cheap parts, and they're usually very easy to replace. Maybe an hour's labor, So while it might be annoying if they go every, say, 30,000 miles, it's really more of a routine maintenance thing than a major red flag.
Okay, so annoying, but not a deal breaker like the motor. That's reassuring.
Definitely not a deal breaker.
Hmm.
Another suspension point to be aware of, though maybe less common, is the ball joints on the lower suspension arms.
Right.
If they become loose, you could also get knocking, sometimes even when you're steering. It can make the front end feel a bit vague, a bit imprecise.
Is that specific to the Zoe?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
That's a wear and tear item on many cars as they get older. The fix usually involves replacing the entire lower suspension arm, as the ball joint is often integrated.
Okay.
Accessing one of the bolts can apparently be a bit fiddly because of the front subframe design, making the job slightly longer than it perhaps should be. But again, it's not a catastrophic failure, just something to be aware of might need doing on an older car.
So general advice is just be kind to the suspension.
Pretty much. A bit of mechanical sympathy, as they say. Slow down for speed bumps. Avoid slamming into potholes if you can safely do so. It helps prolong the life of all these components on any car, really.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned earlier that not all Zoes are the same, and this is really important, isn't it? The whole drivetrain variant thing.
Absolutely crucial. This is key information if you're shopping for a used Zoe. The potential issues, the performance, even how you charge it can differ quite a bit depending on which drivetrain it has.
Okay, break it down for us. What are the main types?
So there are two main families. When the Zoe first came out, it mainly used a drivetrain sourced from a company called Continental. Motor, electronics, the lot.
Okay, Continental.
Then after a couple of years, Renault introduced their own in-house designed drivetrain. They claimed it was a bit more efficient, gave a little more range.
Ah, the Renault one. Did that replace the Continental one straight away?
No, and this is important. For several years, they actually sold both types side by side. So you, as a buyer, had a choice. Did you want the slightly better range of the Renault motor or the faster AC charging capability of the Continental one?
Faster charging on the Continental. Interesting. So you can't just tell by the year of the car then?
Not reliably, no. Especially during those overlap years. But there are ways to tell them apart.
Right. How?
Okay, three main ways. First, the model designation. Cars with the Continental motor have model codes starting with Q, like Q210, or later it was called the Q90.
Q for Continental. Makes sense.
Well, actually,
Oh.
the Q supposedly stood for quick charge, because
Right.
those models could charge faster on AC.
Okay. So what about the Renault ones?
Those have model codes starting with R, like R240, R90, R110, the later R135.
R for Renault or R for R?
R apparently stood for rapid charge, which is confusing because they actually charge slower on AC than the Q models.
Hang on. Q for quick charge is fast AC. R for rapid charge is slower AC. That's typically Renault naming, isn't it?
It is a bit baffling, but that's the second way to tell. The AC charging speed. If a Zoe can take 33 kilowatts on an AC charger, it's got the Continental Q drivetrain. If its maximum AC speed is 22 kilowatts, it's got the Renault R drivetrain.
Okay, Q is 43 kW AC, R is 22 kW AC. Got it. That's much clearer than the names. And the third way,
Pop the bonnet and look in the top left corner as you face the car. They look physically different.
how so?
If you see a kind of circular black plastic housing there, that's the Renault in-house drivetrain. If instead you see a more rectangular aluminum metal box in that spot, that's the Continental drivetrain.
Plastic circle for Renault, metal box for Continental. Easy enough.
Yeah. It's linked to the cooling, too. The Continental motor is water-cooled, hence the metal casing, while the Renault one is air-cooled. So knowing these differences, the QR codes, the AC charging speeds, or just looking under the bonnet is really vital. It helps you understand exactly what version of the Zoe you're looking at.
That is super helpful. So you can do your homework before buying.
Precisely. Because it might influence reliability, performance, and just how practical the car is for your charging situation.
Well, that feels like quite a journey we've taken with the Zoe today. From seeing it on that recovery track to digging into why that Z50 motor failed.
Unearthing that unserviceable bearing issue.
Yeah, and then looking at the suspension quirks and finally getting our heads around those Q and R model differences. It's clear there's more to these early EVs than meets the eye.
Absolutely. And the main point, the real insight to take away from all this, is that specifically for those high-mileage Z50 Renault Zoes, the ones with the Renault R motor, that motor is a potential weak spot because of those bearings.
Right, even if the battery and everything else is holding up okay.
Exactly. That motor is the potential Achilles heel you need to be aware of. And knowing whether you're looking at a Q model or an R model is just fundamental homework for any potential buyer in the used market.
So thinking bigger picture then, what does this whole saga tell us?
Well, it makes you think, doesn't it? If a major part like an electric motor is designed in a way that forces a hugely expensive full replacement instead of a much cheaper component repair. What does that really mean for the long-term sustainability and the true cost of owning these first-generation EVs?
Yeah, good question.
And maybe, how should that shape what you look for, what questions you ask when you're considering future EVs that come onto the market? It's definitely food for thought about repairability and true long-term value.
Definitely something to mull over. Well, we hope this deep dive has been useful for you.
Yeah, hopefully informative.
If you found it helpful, please do hit that like button and maybe subscribe to the channel for more insights like this. We want to keep you informed on the stuff that really matters.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.